Hello, folks. We're back. It is Amy McDonald. This is the Foolish Optimist Podcast. I'm very, very excited because we have our first guest from the great state of California, right? So today with me, we have Loren Colin, a Southern California native. He's lived in Los Angeles for over 30 years. He has a successful career in marketing and technology, and he is a co-founder of Company. And he's been on the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council and a co-chair on the Neighborhood Council as well. So he is running for the U.S. House District 34 in California to provide a real independent option to deliver the pro-American policies and support the people of this very, very diverse district. Loren, thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
I am excited. Thank you for having me, Amy.
So maybe we can start in the very traditional way. Why 2026 and why this position? Why now?
Yeah, it's probably something I've wanted to do since I was 17 years old. Not necessarily run for Congress, but run for office. And then life has taken me on a professional journey that has changed in the last few years, and the timing was right. I've also always been an independent as far back as I can remember. And it just might be happening that this independent run is coinciding with, people are really upset rightly at both parties, and it's time for an independent movement, and I'm here for it, and I'm here to be that option, the real progressive option for the people of California 34 who understand that of all of the problems we have to tackle, one of them is definitely breaking up the two-power party duopoly, and I'm here for it.
Well, so you're talking about being an independent, but being like on the left side of the independent, because I think when people hear independent, they think center party, kind of like because of our mentality of this duopoly, we're like, oh, it must be in between.
So when I was 18 years old, I registered as a Democrat in Southern Orange County, which was still very red then. This is still the place that gave us Nixon and Reagan and ultimately the Heritage Foundation, all these people, John Birch Society. Yeah, lucky us. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, or went to UCLA, and by the time I had to re-register a year or two later is when I actually registered as declined to state. By then, it was already over for me as watching Bill Clinton flail. And I was like, the Democratic Party will never represent me, an actual liberal, a John Locke liberal, an Adam Smith liberal, a Rousseau liberal of a real tradition of truly independent people living their lives as they see fit, with the government not interfering. In fact, one of the things I really like to say is the role of government is not to protect society from the individual. The role of government is to protect the individual from society. The Democratic Party of the 90s and early 2000s was just the same BS, tough on crime, blah, 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 like anti-drug. They led the drug war just as much as Republicans. So I never had a home there. So yes, I've always been a liberal. I've always been a progressive. And to your point, like people imagine things when they hear independent, or sometimes they think, oh, independent means third party. Oh, you're a libertarian, or oh, you're green. Like, nope. I am a state.
You said a few statements that sound a little libertarian in there, at least to my understanding of libertarianism. But I think my understanding of libertarianism is a bit skewed because of the internet, but also because of the people I grew up around. I've heard a lot of different things about libertarians, and I'm like, are you real? I don't think you're real. I think you're kidding.
I think libertarians are embarrassed Republicans who pretend they are not racist. And they get
that's kind of the vibe I get.
Yeah. And I'm anything but that. And liberal, so like there's the liberal of like society, but which
like
is to
big
me,
L liberal.
Big L, which is John Stuart Mill. So John Stuart Mill is my ultimate liberal, and he wrote On Liberty, and it is truly you as an individual get to do whatever you want until you get to the point where you are taking someone's life, liberty, or property. And that also means like where I think sometimes people on the far left think like you have to be community centered first. I'm like, if you can't be a free individual who can freely come and go into groups and make community,
build community.
You can't build exactly. So.
Yeah.
And then as
far as I want to revisit your comment about government being there to protect. You said individuals from society?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Because in my mind, and this is, you're on the Foolish Optimist podcast, it is a quote from Franklin Roosevelt. In my mind, the government's job is to protect the individual from industry.
Well, that too.
Like
Yeah.
that might be part of your society argument, but what does that look like in practice? I would love to hear a little bit more about what that means in practice.
Yeah, it means what Adam Smith warned us about when he wasn't describing capitalism. He gets misnamed as the father of capitalism. Right. He was describing a system of human beings working with each other in their own self-interest, not their own selfishness, but their own self-interest. And ultimately, the things that he hated the most in 1775, the exact same time our country is forming, are monopolies and large corporations that are already forming, because he sees already how these monopolistic powers are actually taking the power away from the people. Adam Smith, not a socialist, believed that every job should pay the minimum standard of living for where you are. It gets actually kind of funny if you read it, because he's like, in London, we wear shoes, but in Scotland, they don't. So the minimum pay...
They're barbarians.
And he's a Scot, right? He's Scottish himself. But in the end, it's like, so we understand what a minimum livable wage should get you in the United States. And any job that you work for 40 hours, maybe it should even only be 32 hours. We can have that other discussion. But once you're working a full-time job, it should be enough to pay for your housing, your home, and your clothes. And the federal government, to your point of protecting the individual from society, the government has a powerful role that it has neglected my whole life. I'm almost 50.
Yeah.
Yep. It has neglected my whole life to actually do what you're saying, which is, corporations, if you're paying someone $8 an hour when the livable wage in your area is 20, and really across the country, it's 21 to
at
25.
Least 20 at this now. At this point. Yeah.
At least. What we have are freeloading corporations, right? And so we have the myth of the powerful American corporation. But the truth is we have freeloading corporations. And I am against freeloading of any type, but especially when it comes for the rich and powerful. And that's actually, you asked like at the beginning, like, why am I running? I've been working since I was 16 years old. And the thing that has upset me since I was 16 years old is that because I make a wage, most of my wealth is taxed away. And my gosh, it must be awesome to have capital gains and inheritance and royalties and rents that aren't taxed.
And we've set up all of these loopholes to what date is this? Today is July 15th. So recently in New York, where I live, Zohran Mamdani won our primary for Democratic for mayor, and he's running under the Democratic Socialist banner, and everyone's losing their fucking mind. And it's like, but we're very comfortable with socialism when it comes to industry, when it comes to the uber wealthy, when it comes to not taxing them and not creating all these different loopholes that'll let them hide their money, move it around, etc. And then, of course, we've set up like the media apparatus to absolutely glorify, praise them, and make sure that everyone thinks that it is perfectly attainable no matter who they are.
Yes, the old embarrassed, not yet a millionaire American, right? Like, and I think that is, again, we talk about American myths. Yes, Americans, many of us think that we are one morning away from waking up a millionaire. And my gosh, if I'm a millionaire, I certainly wouldn't want to be taxed like one. Actually, I would want to be taxed like one. It's just someone making a wage, right? But the truth is, where society should be, and hope the change that I'm trying to bring about is, you hear a lot of, especially Democrats, saying the wealthy should pay their fair share. Actually, I'll go back to Adam Smith here. The wealthy should pay more than their fair share. Because 100%. They are using all of the resources for their wealth. And again, sometimes words get confusing, socialism, blah, 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 Marxism. Like Marxism is its whole thing. I do not believe that the government providing resources is socialism. Government doing projects is not socialism. It is actually the role of the government.
We're already paying for it.
We are.
We're so used to not getting anything back for our fucking taxes that when people are like, oh, you want free buses? Oh, what? And it's like, well, where the fuck's my money going anyways?
Yeah.
Right.
And
I would prefer to give it to a free, but get people to jobs. They'll be able to do whatever they want. Fine.
And but it's also part of that thing. It's like nothing's free, right? It's actually paid for by our taxes. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes we get to use we use these words that we've been propagandized to use because, well, free sounds like a handout, or even
Yes.
a livable wage sounds like a handout. Actually, it's about your dignity.
Right.
You
It's
are
about workers'
working.
dignity. Yeah.
You've worked,
Yeah.
you've earned it. And then sometimes people say, like, should you get $21 for flipping a burger? Yes.
Yeah. I've had this argument so many times. And like something we do really well in the United States that I don't think they do as prominently in other parts of the world is we assign morality to things that have no business having morality, right? Like rich and poor, good jobs, bad jobs, being skinny or being not skinny. There's morality. And it's like, even like cleanliness, the way that you keep a house, there's
Yeah.
morality there. And I'm like, no, a job's a job.
All work is dignified work. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I just can't, I love it. I appreciate that. That's true. Okay. So we agree on that. What are some of these other ways that government can protect the individuals from society as you see it in practice?
Yeah. I think a lot of when we talk about the culture war and it gets broken down into LGBTQIA or black and brown and white, I think it comes back to, again, this idea that we actually are all individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And as an individual, again, it comes back to what I think is just you have dignity as a human being. And ultimately, the government should protect that individuality. And I think where we get to the point from conservatives and the right is that they think someone leading their own life is an infringement on that conservative person not doing, like, no one's making you gay. In fact, I'll share a little story. So I went, for better or worse, to a Los Angeles County Republican Club meeting.
Okay.
And they were, after 45 minutes of bashing trans people and their enemy and they're godless and how dare they exist, the head of the LA County Republican Party actually said, they started talking about streets. She's like, they want to get you out of your car, take all the streets away from you, and make you ride a bike and be trans. I'm like, how do you even imagine that? First of all, if there's a trans person riding a bicycle, they just want to be left alone.
They just want to get to where they're going.
Right. And so conservatives have become, and this mixture of our American religion that combines Christianity and nationalism
Prosperity.
and whiteness and prosperity gospel, right? It's really deluding people to what's out there. And for some reason, they think I believe all these things. And I guess here's the difference between, to me, a liberal, everyone else, even if it's on the far left or the far right, I believe these things, therefore you have to too. As a liberal, I believe these things, and I frankly don't care what you believe as long as you allow everyone else to believe it. And I think that's the missing string. And I think, again, I don't know what life was like before I was born. And obviously, I am a white man. I understand the privilege that I've had and still have. But I think as our life has got more and more coarse over the last 45 years, especially since the Reagan tax cuts, especially to me, one of the most gross things, and this I was around for, was in the 80s, vice became virtue. All of a sudden, greed was good.
The flip.
And we've lived in this world where, vice is virtue. And I actually want to bring virtue back again. I want to bring justice back and wisdom and courage. And I think that's why I started out with my idea of even running, is we have to change our culture before we change our politics. And to me, those are the things that when you understand, like you said, like what is government's actual role in allowing each of us to live our life, then it becomes clear that, our culture has to change to allow each of us to live our life before the government is going to support that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously you mentioned a lot of things, but something I get made fun of on the internet a lot for is having empathy. And I'm like, when, like, I wasn't alive during the vice to virtue switch, right? Like I'm a 90s baby. And so like, it's always been that way. But you watch these movies and you watch The Wolf of Wall Street and you watch these, like even Wall Street, just classic Wall Street.
Yep.
And you just see this idea and then you start to learn more about history and you're like, wait a minute. So like we're making videos with Michael Douglas about Wall Street and like cocaine and all these other things at the same time that Black Americans are being villainized for crack.
Yeah.
So like the culture is massively important. And I like that you're taking that on head first, because do we need it? Do we fucking need it? I think historically it's been proven we have to change the idea around it before a law comes into place. And that's like, you map any social movement in the United States to that exact moment. So let's talk a little bit about your district specifically. This is California 34th U.S. House District. So we're in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Any other markers for people who are not from Los Angeles?
Absolutely. Well, right now, if you're watching television and you're seeing all of the stuff in downtown LA and ICE and our own LAPD and our own sheriffs, which, by the way, 2 weeks ago, they were shooting at each other. The LA County Sheriff and the LAPD were firing non-lethal weapons at each other. So to give you an anchor, that is part of California 34. And then if you're familiar with Los Angeles, it basically goes east from there to Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, City Terrace, unincorporated East Los Angeles, which is its part of the county. It's not its own city. And then it goes north through Chinatown, Eagle Rock, Highland Park, El Sereno. And then it cuts a little bit of where I am in Echo Park. I'm right on the edge. I'm literally, if I step outside of my building, and go across the street, I'm outside of the district. And then it goes west to MacArthur Park, Koreatown, and Pico Union. And a lot of people go like, that sounds huge. I believe I'm pretty accurate when I say I think it is the most compact district outside of New York City.
It's really, we'll put a map picture out there, people, because it's a major city. They found 400,000-ish people who live in however many square miles. But that's great, though, because that means you physically have to cover less space. But you have probably a lot of apartment buildings, isn't it?
It is a lot of apartment buildings, but it's also great because I do get to walk. I can basically walk to any edge except all the way to the east side in like 90 minutes. So I love walking around the district. Some of the other interesting things are the median income of this district is only $68,000. Only $68,000. Compared to the rest of California, it's actually really low. Compared to, I know I have some peers who are running in like Kentucky, and I tell them that's the median income of the district. And they're like, that's insanely high. What? But it's not. So, and we also among, I said you heard like Koreatown, Chinatown, East Los Angeles. While over decades, there are obviously many families that are second, third, fourth generation from wherever they're from. We also have the most immigrants, whether they are documented currently or not. We have the most immigrants in the country in this district. So while voting everywhere is pretty low, the district just over that covers like Malibu and Calabasas and the western part of our San Fernando Valley is actually somehow a slightly majority white district. And it actually votes, it actually gets over 50% of the people to come out to vote. California 34, not so much.
Not so much. I was writing down numbers right before we started. The numbers are low. And actually on that topic, primaries, you guys have open primaries, meaning everybody votes for everybody. So is it just the first two people get the interesting. So because I've noticed the last couple of years in California 34, it's been two Democrats running.
And it's pretty common throughout. I mean, I think there might only be of the 52 representatives. I think Republicans might be down to like between 9 and 12. But even in those districts, it's almost always a Republican against a Republican and a Democrat against a Democrat, which is fine. I mean, again, we should get rid of the gerrymandered districts, which is a whole different discussion. I get it here running as a progressive. I don't have to convince anyone in California 34 to be progressive. That's not the conversation we're having, right? But they immediately, understandably, are like, well, a lot of why I vote for Democrats is because I'm voting against Republicans. I'm oppositionally voting. I want to give people a reason to vote for something. And so
crazy idea.
I know. And so I let them know, right, when you vote for me, you're not risking sending some right-wing conservative to Congress in this district. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about someone who believes the same things that you believe, who will actually use the safety of this district that we pretty much are super majority progressive to actually take these ideas and spread them to the other 434 districts and the other 49 states that don't get the message. And really, that's my number one complaint against the incumbent, Jimmy Gomez. He'll have been here for 9 years. He comes out of the unions. He serves the unions beautifully. He serves Nancy Pelosi beautifully, right? If you want a backbencher Democrat, Jimmy Gomez is your guy. This is probably not the most vicious attack ad, but those are the criticisms. And that's why I am running, because no one has stood up in this district to actually bring these messages out.
Right, of what the people actually do need. On that note, out of California 34, when you're talking to potential constituents, what are the things keeping them up at night?
A lot of doors. Yep. And the top 2 things I hear are the cost of healthcare and something super local, but also I think when people hear Los Angeles, they hear it a lot, homelessness. I'll talk healthcare first, which is, even when I'm knocking on doors, again, there's not a lot of progressives you have to convince in Los Angeles. So when I'm knocking on doors in predominantly Latino East LA, and a mid-30s Latino guy opens the door and starts talking to me, and he's like, I will gladly pay more in taxes for healthcare, knowing that I'm not going to pay premiums and deductibles and copays. And even if it's the same crappy insurance that I get, it's not going to some middleman, and it's going to be cheaper, right? Like, of course, the people understand this, but again, there's no Democratic Party platform. There's no Democrats. They say MFA or Medicare for all, but they're not explaining. Right. It's not just Medicare for all. Right. It's actually cheaper and better. Yeah. So the people of California 34 tell that to me, and I'm happy now to tell that to the rest of the world. When it comes to homelessness, it's actually kind of part of a bigger criticism of, I think, where we are in government everywhere, nationally, at the state levels and local levels, which is, as we've seen the rise of the oligarchy and corporatism and the wealth hoarding, we keep shrinking the rest of the opportunity. It became really easy to say no. Government keeps saying no. Homelessness, and there was just an article in the LA Times today, and I'm not a huge fan of the LA Times these days, but there's a really great article today connecting that when people say homelessness, what they're really complaining about is housing. And when they're complaining about housing, what they're really saying is that we can't build enough fast enough. And that's because government got to the point of saying no. So part of my platform is ideas of how to get government and use the power of the federal government to get state and local governments to say yes again, say yes to things like housing.
And housing is one of those things. So my background is in real estate and construction. And it's like, do you not understand the amount of jobs that come when you start building housing? There are so many people that would be ready, willing, and able to work these jobs. And it's government money. They know the money's coming. They know they're not going to run out of money, and they're going to jump on board. And I just hate that we're not framing these issues like that. We can talk about homelessness till we're blue in the face, but if we don't talk about building the houses, we don't talk about the jobs that come with building the houses, the economic opportunity.
Yeah, you've nailed it. And that's why I'm really excited. I'm part of, on the outside, there's people really doing real work in housing, and they the California state legislature is listening and starting to move, and the city of LA is slowly starting to wake up. But the idea, you talk to someone who is in a single family zone or single family home, and they're like, I will protect this to the end. I'm like, is that more important than a healthy city? Is that more important than your own kids being able to live in your city? Because basically what happened in Los Angeles, which happened everywhere or many places, is originally Los Angeles is actually the city that gave the world planning codes to begin with. And it was a really simple one at first. It was really simple at first, and it kind of sounds like, okay, it was just separate residential from commercial. But then all of a sudden, Latinos and Blacks started moving in. They're like, well, why don't we just separate whites from everyone else? And that's really what became single family home zones versus everything else. So again, out of our racist history, people grow up and they don't necessarily know the history. They just live in a certain way, and they don't put all the dots together to make the connection. Oh, there's high unemployment. Oh, there's homelessness. Oh, my kids can't stay here because of a racist policy that, happened before you were born, but you're the one who's alive now. You have to do something about it.
I have this conversation all the time. People are, you see my content on the internet, but I have it in real life too. People come up to me and ask me questions about what I'm posting on the internet. And I had someone literally start screaming at me about white guilt. And I was like, I'm not trying to make anybody feel guilty. You're 40 and you're yelling at me Saturday, 9:30 p.m. about white guilt. I was like, I'm just wondering how I forced your hand in.
Right.
But I'm like, but you are a grown up now. You're an adult. So you have to either like adjust or live with the circumstances. And it's very frustrating to me. It's very frustrating to me on multiple levels, right? You and I both grew up in the version of the United States that told us as individuals we can do whatever the fuck we want. And then the government turns around and like shuts down every new idea that's ever shown up. And they're like, well, you can't do it. And you're like, what? But how?
Yeah, it's time to get government back to yes. And that's at the local level, at the state level, and at the federal level. And part of it is, like I said, as we've seen the wealth hoarding at the top, they like to say no because that means they're the only ones who can, they hoard more. So by getting, and there's a great graph that actually comes out of housing that I think that a local architect and land use person down here has created that shows in the 60s and 70s when Los Angeles was booming, that yes, while there was a significant amount of single family homes being built, there was also a ton of multifamily homes being built. The more important lesson from that isn't necessarily the mix of housing, which is important, but who was building it? It wasn't giant corporations. It wasn't giant developers. It wasn't giant construction workers that are either national or multinational. It was mom and pop developers. It was landowners or homeowners converting their land into something. It was small construction firms. That's why we have to get back to yes. And to your point, Amy, when we start building, it's four things, right? The framing is not only does it solve housing, not only does it start to solve homelessness, which has some other things, and we can talk about it if you want. But to your point, it's jobs. And in Los Angeles, we have in California, Prop 13. So our property tax rates are set basically when you buy your house, and they only go up between 1% and 2% a year.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is. And it's also why we get a totally different discussion. But what happens is when you sell the property or redevelop the property, then the property value resets. So again, if you go from a single family home, exactly. So if you go, if to me, this is actually about freedom and liberty, by the way. I, the homeowner, the landowner, right? It's not even homeowner. I am the landowner. I should be able to build whatever I want, whether it is a single family home or I tear that down and I build 8 new properties that could either be rent or sold. The bottom line is when it becomes 8 properties, the tax base changes and people are always afraid here, like, oh, if we build more homes, the value of my property will go down. Actually, Portland and Austin prove that when you build more homes, home values don't go down. They still go up. They don't go crazy up. But again, it's because there's no artificial.
But also, it's Los Angeles. The value of your home is fairly safe, barring like a San Andreas fault movie situation where like half of California goes away. Like it's Los Angeles. You'll be just fine.
So the biggest thing is that when you go from that single family home to 8 homes, you will not just see an 8-fold increase in the amount of property taxes, but probably a 16-fold increase from that one lot, right? Wow. So like we solve as the city of Los Angeles and the county of Los Angeles teeter on bankruptcy, housing fixes it. And it's not really getting housing, it's getting government back to saying yes. And while I'm running for federal office, there are tools to get government back to saying yes. So ideas that I have that I've talked to some of our city council people about, and they're like receptive because they're like, what would you do? Is right now there's federal loan guarantees for building single family homes, of course. So let's create a multifamily home building guarantee. And people are like, well, it's more risky to build multifamily homing. I'm like, I know, that's why you need the federal government guarantee.
And it's so much more risky because it's a massive undertaking. I'm still stuck on a couple of things that you said earlier. One is that separation of commercial and residential. And is that where Los Angeles is so sprawling? Because they just didn't build up, they started to just build out.
Well, Los Angeles is so sprawling because William Mulholland put a gun to the head of all of the small then cities that didn't have their own wells and said, if you want water, you're joining the city of Los Angeles.
Oh, the water wars. What a time.
So that's Chinatown. And Chinatown is in my district, as I said, which is one of my favorite reasons. So I get to say, forget about it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
Yeah,
so we are spread out. So that original city was supposed to have capacity for 10 million people. It got downzoned in the 70s and 80s to 4 million. We're at 3.8 million and we keep hitting this ceiling. And then we keep having people on the streets. And to your point, it is Los Angeles. It is California. People do want to move here. And yeah, we
Always.
have to get back to building. So it was those zoning laws. So in the city of LA, 73% of the city is zoned exclusively for single family homes. And yeah, it led to that sprawl and the flatness.
Yes. And now, of course, everyone, my age, I'm like 15 years younger than you. I'm 35. Everyone my age just wants a walkable city. And it's like, well, zoning laws like this and 50 plus or 100 years plus of building around that has caused so many more issues, right? Now you have to get in your car to go. I tried to leave New York and I had like a mental breakdown because I didn't have any toothpaste and I had to go to the store. I had to get in the car, to go to the store, and to park the car and to get the toothpaste. And I I know in New York, I just walk across the street. I'm a bathroom,
Yeah, the scene from LA Story from way back when Steve Martin just drove one house down and they did the long zoom shot. It's still LA today. But again, in places it's different. So you see the walkability of parts of Los Angeles, like where I am here, closer to the core, and that's much older, where there actually is, in most of my district, there already is multifamily housing. The problem is it's the rest of the city that doesn't have it. And so when people are like, just build more on corridors and just build more where the poor people are. Well, if you're tearing down a place that has lower rents in Boyle Heights where 8 families live, you have to evict 8 families first.
Right.
And then, oh, now it's 12 or 14 units. Cool. But if you just take a single family home in Westwood or Brentwood or Tarzana, right? And it goes from a homeowner who has all the power to do what they want to go from single family to 4 units, 8 units. No one's evicted.
Yeah.
Right? No one's displaced. And it pencils out. When we get these ideas of no, a lot of the complaints here in California, I know we're talking a lot about housing, but I think it's endemic of all of the other problems.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, not apples to apples, but it's like green apples to red apples. Like it's very close. Yeah.
And so you understand that by building everywhere is the only way to get out of the solution, or the only way to solve the problem. And part of it, and I think where we'll take it back to sort of the campaign and how I'm running. Again, I'm not a professional politician, which I think is an advantage. And I think we should have more non-professional politicians, and people should decide to run for an office or couple offices and say, I'm going to serve X amount of years and then GTFO.
Scoot. Yeah. Yep. Get the fuck out.
But where I come from, everything's about objectives first and then a strategy to build it or to get to your objectives. And we don't do that in government. And I'm not saying run government like a business, because the planning department sets strategy. Like the department sets strategies, our legislatures don't set strategies. And I think that's what's kind of missing in how we govern ourselves. So to me, the question is, what do you want to solve? What is the problem? Great. Right. You want more housing? Then how do we get to more housing? We want people off the streets. How do we get people off the streets? We want healthcare.
Big one.
Big one, right. What is the objective way to get healthcare? And it's not doing what we're doing, where we spend as GDP 1/3 more than Japan and Germany to get worse results, right? It's just like the definition of stupidity. So we don't have to reinvent anything. We can look to where it's already been solved, like Germany, like Japan, which, by the way, isn't just healthcare. It's cradle to grave. It's from the time you're born through your childhood, adult life, and your long-term care, and they pay it in taxes. And at the end of the day, whatever they pay in taxes, they still have more money left over than we pay in taxes, plus the cost of those things.
I know
that we pay out of pocket.
I was in Germany and I sat people down. I was like, I need to know how much I was like, this is going to be wildly American, but I need to know how much money you're making, and I need to know how much you're getting taxed, because I think we're being lied.
Yes.
And we are, especially for people in Los Angeles and people in New York, right? Our tax brackets line up with portions of Germany's tax brackets very well. And again, with back to that thing that we were talking about, how more or less we're not used to getting things back for our taxes. We're used to our taxes going to fund wars rather than build housing and help people with their healthcare,
Today it's wars putting human beings in cages. And not just human beings, but the people who've actually built this country. And I don't just mean physically built, but also morally, culturally, except for Native Americans, we are a country of immigrants, or again, be honest, like families that were forced here, but
Yeah.
we all got here somehow. And also, I'm not a big fan of using necessarily the past as the guide. What are the issues today? What do we want to solve today? And yes, if racism is still an issue of today, then we need to solve it. And it's not enough to say like, oh, I don't own slaves. Well, of course you don't own slaves, but it doesn't.
I should hope not.
or the whataboutisms of, you mentioned something like that, and the rightist, the MAGA will say, it was Africans that sold other Africans to slavery. I'm like,
always.
I understand all your whatabouts. Yeah.
Without fucking fail. Every time.
And but what they don't ever want to admit is that race and racism came directly from the aristocratic Europeans that were creating the Atlantic slave trade, because at that time in 1600, 1615, you and I and everyone else that's on the right would have been a feudal serf, barely having a subsistence living. So they sold race and racism because all of a sudden you're a feudal serf now having to compete against free labor.
Yeah.
So, and this idea that, because someone's below you, you're okay. No, you have to wake up to the fact that, and this is, I think, where anti-racism, the older version of anti-racism, talks about what you're doing for other people. No one changes because of what you're doing for other people. That's just not how human beings operate.
Yeah.
We change because it's important to us. There's a benefit to us.
Yes.
So to you, the individual, the benefit is you will actually, by becoming anti-racist, by tearing down the barriers of racism, you benefit because you will be healthier. You will be wealthier. You will have more love in your own life. And maybe that last one's not important to everyone. It's important to me. But I think we all agree on healthier and wealthier. So when you choose your own self-interest is when you recognize it's time to become anti-racist. And part of the conversation about, people like Latinos moved right and Black men moved right, there couldn't be enough of them moving right to cancel out the fact that it is white people who put Trump and MAGA and Republicans in charge. And again, you can BS all you want, and you can look at the numbers, and you can say, look at these shifts, until white people wake up, until white people say, my self-interest is more important than my whiteness, we're going to be stuck. And so I don't have the answers. I wish I did. I think a lot of it is how people were raised. And honestly, you were raised wrong. Your mom and pa raised you wrong. And at a certain point, you are an adult and you have to figure out, what do you really want? And if you really want to be healthy and safe and wealthy, then you will start becoming the anti-racist, and you will go, it's not even a matter. And this comes back to, again, like people want to say it's like DEI or it's culture wars. No, it's the war for you to live your life as you see fit and to make sure that everyone else can. And I think that's how we elevate the conversation. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. It doesn't even matter who you are today, because tomorrow you can be someone different and the day after someone different. And I realize conservatism is about not changing, but that sounds awful. You sound miserable.
I'm just sitting here smiling because I actually really like this as an argument, right? Because I grew up in the South. I live in New York now because I couldn't get out fast enough. But that seems like a perfect counter argument to. The problem is it's like decades and decades and generations of conditioning, specifically towards white people, even more specifically towards poor white people, that you have to break through that noise. And I'm thinking about your Republican Party person from earlier who said they're going to try to take your car and make you trans. That's part of the argument, right? Is that we have to make every single enemy very vague and very far away. And it's just a they. They could be anybody. They could be trans people. They could also be people coming over the border. It could be anyone. And that's part of this, keep them poor, scared, and constantly angry approach.
Yeah, you nailed it with the scared and the angry and fear. And again, part of changing that culture is your fear and your anger are understandable. You can't tell someone that their fear and their anger is not a real feeling. But again, it's your approach. So you don't want to have fear. You don't want to have anger. I agree with you there too. It's how you want to solve it. You want to blame someone else. I guess I do too. I want to blame the oligarchs and the billionaires and the people who are stealing your money. So,
Yeah.
right, we do actually do have sort of, for lack of a better word, a common enemy, a common they.
Yeah.
But they are 800 people, and they are really pulling the strings, and they are really the ones that are keeping you poor, and they are the
Stealing
ones
from you.
stealing
Yes.
from you every day and making you fearful.
Yeah.
So if you want, you have to want to change. So I want to give you the room. And I think, as we think about decades of political correctness and cancel culture, I think some of the issues with those, while it was always ostensibly like the left is doing this, no, it was a cudgel of the right, because that's how you keep people scared and in a lane. And
Yeah.
we just have to break that. There's to me, the issue with cancel culture, and actually just made a post about this morning for MAGAs. Like, if you notice prices are rising because of Trump tariffs, and Trump tariffs are making you poor, I'm not going to belittle you for voting for Trump. I don't think you should have. But what I'm saying is, hey, when you're ready to recognize that your own life can be better by doing something different, this is where the different is. Come here.
Yeah.
And there's no shame.
Yeah.
There's no questioning. The past is the past, but you're ready to move forward? Then let's move forward together.
I've been having this same conversation, right? I think for the vast majority of Americans who voted for Donald Trump, I'm like, I am ready, willing, and able to give you a soft place to land.
Yep.
It is like the Tucker Carlsons and these people in power, and like even like other people with platforms. I tagged Andrew Schultz in the video, so I'll fucking say his name now. You know better than this, and you let him play you for some reason. And I don't know if it's because you make a ton of money and you want to make more money. I don't know if that's it. I don't know if it's because you're actually really comfortable and happy with the way he speaks about women and minorities and disabled people. I don't know.
Yeah. The grift is strong.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate your take on it. And I think it is really, it's abundantly clear you've been in marketing for a really the audience, and I do appreciate that. And I also think that would be brutally helpful in Washington, right? Is understanding how to speak to people.
Yeah, I hope so too. And honestly, it goes back to I technically did not graduate, but I was a double major, and I just didn't turn in my last paper. But I was a double major in history and communication studies at UCLA, and basically, people would always say like Berkeley was like the commie socialist history department.
Right.
Actually, that was UCLA. Not to say Berkeley wasn't, but
right.
And my lesson from that was people are oppressed and they don't want to be oppressed. Socialism, I think, is another way ultimately of just, it's a different oppressor than your fascist dictator. But ultimately, we all have to fight for our own freedom, our own power. In this way, I'm very much a Madisonian, which is you get the government you deserve. He wrote it like 2 or 3 times in whatever essays he wrote in
we know.
The Federalist Papers.
Yeah, more like we get it, Madison.
And we get it. And so, but that's why, like, I don't, at the end of the day, I don't blame the media, and I don't blame the billionaire oligarchs, and I don't blame the politicians. It's us. We put up with this. This is what we're comfortable with. And when we want something different, it's not gonna, you have to do the work. But then the other part of it is when we are comfortable, and this was a great class I took, the theory of persuasion, which is what I said earlier, you're only going to change when it's something important to you. That transformation has to be inside. And so what we can do is we can offer all of the benefits of the transformation. And then, like you said, when they are ready to have that transformative moment, to give them a place to be versus, ooh, where have you been the last 30 years?
Yeah.
You're just pushing them back away. No, it takes so much energy to change your own mind, because the first thing you have to do is admit to yourself that you were wrong about something. And it's tough, and I get it. So I
think being that soft place to land and like allowing people to be curious, right? I think for a really long time, both parties do this. They dictate how they try to dictate how you feel, right? Like, I'm a woman, and they're going to tell me, women's rights has to be the only thing that matters. And I'm like, women's rights matter for sure. So does everything else. Because we can have more than one thought at once.
I'm glad you said that, because I was a little down yesterday. I went for a walk, and I got back to, like, I want to remain positive because I have a positive vision for the country. And I came back to actually being a creative, which is, in the creative world, especially during a brainstorm as you're figuring things out, it's always yes and. So even when someone actually has a horrible idea, you still write it on the board.
Oh yeah,
because
write them all
you
down.
because you can still use it to go, I see what you're saying, and so
Right.
I see what we're saying in this country, that the oligarchs and the billionaires have too much power. Yes. And we can tax them.
Is that,
and yes, we have 11 to 15 million now. I think it's still closer to 11 undocumented immigrants.
yeah.
And we can do the most American thing in the world, or I guess the most American thing in America, and document them. They're not illegals.
We've done that before. We
have
did it.
done
I
it
was
before.
looking at the numbers out of it's pre-ICE, right? It's before ICE. I don't even know what the department was called before ICE, but I was looking at that
Border
big
Patrol.
chunk. Yeah, I was like looking at the big chunk in the 80s, I guess it was. I think it was like late 70s, early 80s. And
It was
of course
80s
it's like
Reagan, yeah.
yeah, I was like I was like reading through it and I was like, oh, so we can do this.
Absolutely. And we must do it, right? Again, if you care about
Why not?
America, if you care about America and you care about growth and sustainability, right? Growth and sustainability go together. When people talk about shrinking opportunity and getting closed off, that actually is less sustainable. You're just having less is not sustainable, but growth in a way that encourages all of us to participate, that brings us all together to solve the problems. That's the America that I was sold on and kind of feel like grew up in as, again, the effects of turning vice into virtue, as the effects of greed is good took over. And I feel we've lost that. And historically, we talked about like, when do people change? And I'm not an accelerationist. I never wanted to be, but the truth is the house is on fire now. There's nothing to accelerate to.
No.
If you're not burned yet, you're like, I'm not an undocumented person. I'm not going to get burned, or I don't hire undocumented, so it's not affecting my people, or even just the city I'm living in has less, money going through it. You are going to get burned. It's just a matter of time. So what I was going to say is, historically, when white Americans get super burned is when they do change, right? Because that's what we were talking about earlier. So as the Civil War happened, again, it happened in the context of people don't understand how poor America was up until after World War II. So, and we were poor before in the 1860s because of slavery, because there was literally a whole free workforce that you were competing against. And all of a sudden it's like, maybe we shouldn't compete against free work, right? And then after the Civil War was the first, I guess, the second rise of the oligarchs and the Industrial Revolution.
Our rubber bearings.
And Teddy Roosevelt's like, enough. And Americans got behind Teddy to say, enough, let's break up the trust. Let's break up the monopolies. And honestly, like, I would not be an independent if the Democratic Party was Teddy Roosevelt Republican and an FDR Democrat and a Johnson Democrat. Johnson was the last great liberal. And there's not been and there's not been a liberal in my lifetime. And that's why I never had a home in the Democratic Party. And that's why I'm an independent. And I believe in those things that those three men happen to have done, which is we break up the monopolies. We tax the hell out of the wealthy. We expand the safety net. And no, this is not socialism. As Truman said, right? Everything that is good and helps the people, they call socialism. None of it's socialism. It's our government. It's us taking our wealth and making sure that it is distributed back to each of us instead of hoarded. And this, if I heard this message from a party, I would happily join.
You're like, let me write my name down next to that one right then. Yeah, but that's exactly. It's just, we have branding issues on the left at every portion of the left, frankly. We have major branding issues, but God, the Democrats, I was a little too young to see Bill Clinton happen in real time, right? Like, I didn't really understand what was going on, but as an adult, I'm like, oh no. I was gonna say, we just like are at this point, the Democratic Party is not even like, they're diet Republican. They're Republicans almost like the 90s. Like, I think George Bush Jr., George W., not HW, would be closer to the Democratic Party today, and that's why they love them so.
Clinton, his biggest success was welfare reform. Yeah. He shrunk the safety net, and that's everything that's wrong. All of, I guess, what it gets encapsulated somewhere between neoliberalism and Chicago school and Austrian school and Reaganomics is shrinking the safety net. But again, it's not like you shrink the safety net and you give the money directly to the people. The history of the last 45 years is shrinking the safety net and then taking the money from the poorest of us and literally handing it to the wealthy. And we do it through this atrocious tax code, which is honestly, my platform is you throw out the tax code and you start over and you create a comprehensive wealth tax. And I didn't bring my wallet down, but I'm going to start a gimmick. You're going to see it on TikTok in a day or so. $1 of wages and $1 of inheritance and $1 of capital gains. Guess what each dollar has? And they're just $1, but each of those is taxed completely differently. And that's what the tax code is. And that's what the other 1,000 pages of this new tax code is. It's just ways that if you own this one business, you can deduct this. Those are expenses to the government. And we treat it as though it's money back to you. No, it's an expense to the government. And it's just this, I do hand it, again, I don't blame ultimately the ultra wealthy, but you got to hand it to them. They sold us a really great bogus bag of goods and we bought it. So it's up to us to stop buying it. Like, how much more information do you need before you understand that tax cuts don't pay for themselves? That trickle down doesn't trickle down.
What do you mean 40 years of experience isn't enough?
Yeah. And then you get back to, if the evidence is in front of you, what is stopping you from looking at the evidence or ignoring the evidence? And I wish I had a better answer, but sometimes I really think it just comes back to this idea of whiteness and that people would rather protect whiteness. And I've never been that guy, and I can't even comprehend it.
I similarly, even being raised in the South, and I've had people ask me why I am the way that I am, but like my parents moved to Hoboken, New Jersey in the 90s. So like all of my first friends that I can even picture remembering, I came home and cried every day because I was white. I was like, I have blonde hair and blue eyes and white skin, and all my friends have brown hair and brown eyes and brown skin, and they're all pretty. And my mom was like, honey, you're pretty. I was like, not like then. I'm like, why can't you? I was like, what happened here? And she's like, I don't know what to tell you. So I just and then I grew up in the South, and like we became closest friends with Black families at every school we went to. And there weren't that many because it's the South and it is still segregated to high heaven, whether you want to believe it or not. But it's just been, don't understand protecting the whiteness of America. And now we have people literally saying, Tucker Carlson, like straight up saying shit like that. And you're like, oh, you're a person with massive influence.
And you find out like this great replacement theory. Again, they always say it in hushed tones. And then when you accuse them of saying the things they say, they're like, we didn't say that. This is personal to me. I have friends that are not documented.
Yeah.
And they've always known that their lives were unstable. It's happening to them now in the protection of whiteness. And you hear the truth, because it's not now deport 11 million people, right? It's, there's 76 million.
Yeah, they're talking about 60 million.
Oh, every brown person? And like, no,
and then some.
And then, right. And there's just down the street in Chinatown, actually it's the border of Chinatown and Olvera Street. Well, our Chinatown is where it is because Union Station is where it is because they hung 150 years ago all of the Chinese people and had to move a half mile away. So there's all these bricks that talk about like progress and not progress. And one of them was Operation Wetback 1954. And again, citizens were picked up just because of the color of their skin. And we see it again. And if that doesn't bother you, then you might call yourself an American. And I can't stop you from calling yourself an American, but I'm going to tell you, your ideals are not American ideals. The Constitution, and again, like our Supreme Court is such a joke, and how they work backwards from their end idea. As a writer, and as you can see it. The Constitution is clear when it says person, not citizen.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can see them and then working backwards in there.
Yeah. And eventually, again, I think we are on the precipice. Inflation's going up. The economy shrunk last quarter. Economic activity stalling everywhere. Trump is going to destroy this country, which is the goal. Again, he's not doing it by accident. He's doing it on purpose so that he and the billionaires can pick up the scraps for cheap, leaving us all fighting for smaller and smaller pieces. This is their Roman Colosseum, right? And we're all in their play. But we have to wake, and historically what will happen and most likely happen, and I realize I'm very much a realist as I'm on the Foolish Optimist podcast. I'm very much a realist that what's most likely going to happen in 2026 is the Democrats, at least in the House, will wipe out the Republicans.
Because
Cool. Fine. But again, we haven't changed the power dynamic because the truth is it's also 50 years of Democratic rule where they've literally been in power for half the time. It's not like Republicans have been in power most of the time. It's in my lifetime between presidents, evenly split, between Congresses, and it's evenly split. Democrats own all of this too. Mm-hmm. And that's why if you believe that you want change and you're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again, I cannot help you. But if you want change and you're open to actually doing something different, I'm here to be that option for you. And it's not just me. Amy, there's lots of other independents. There's lots of great organizations out there, right? So there's things like Forward Party, if you want a party. There's things like goodparty.org, which is if you are running as an independent or you want to support independents, go to goodparty.org. The independent movement is real and it is happening. And let me tell you, when I talk to people who've been, again, I don't have to convince progressives to be progressive in California 34. When I talk to people who are ostensibly Democrats here, even going to Democratic Party clubs, they're like, yeah, it's bad. We need
They're like, what's going on?
We need something
I agree.
new. So let's do something new.
That is I think a perfect place to wrap things up. But before we go, I want you to tell people where they can follow your campaign. And then I have to ask you 10 rapid fire random questions. So where can people follow you?
The easiest place is Loren Colin for Congress.com, LorenColin for Congress.com. And you'll find that same handle on all of your favorite social media. So you'll see Loren Colin for Congress on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Threads. And if people are still going to Blue Sky, I'm not on X. I don't plan on being on X. It is the trash that it is. And it's okay if people go there. Again, everyone's free. That's my point. You're free to do what you want, and I'm free to do what I want. So you won't see me on X.
I love that. I'm also not on X anymore. I had to get rid of it. It was a cesspool. So, all right, let's go. We're going to pick 10 random questions. Are you more of a cat person or a dog person?
Historically, I was always a dog person. And then my fiance brought a cat into my life. So I guess I struggle now. Dog.
Okay, still dog. But you're getting introduced to cats. Okay.
I've warmed up and I love the kitty. I mean, what can I say? But yeah.
Are you a coffee or a tea or a different kind of caffeine person?
Coffee. In fact, I only drink 3 things: coffee, water, and alcohol.
Honestly, when you put it that way. No, that's not true. I tried to have a Diet Coke yesterday, but I dropped it and it exploded and I just was on the side of the road and it was a tall boy. I was just like, okay, what was the last book that you read in full? Cover to cover.
The last book that I read in full, oh God, because I'm almost through it, so it's not cover to cover. Finish it.
I'll take that one.
So I'm almost done with the 1,000 pages of Don Quixote. Yes, and Don Quixote is the unofficial mascot of this campaign, as I charge into windmills and get slammed to the ground, and I share the knight errant's, foolish optimism, Amy.
So the full quote that I'm taking this from is FDR's first inaugural address, and he's like, "Only a foolish optimist would disregard the severity of our situation." So I felt like it was really fitting, right? Okay. Do you have a favorite movie?
Do I have a favorite movie? Yes, Spaceballs.
Spaceballs, classic. Spaceballs. Okay. At first I thought you said Baseballs, and I was like, I don't think I know that one. Spaceballs. Yes.
Which we're getting a sequel 40 years later.
Honestly, I don't mind that. Yeah. I'm glad they're not redoing it. I'll take a sequel. It's not going to be as good. Obviously, it can't be. It's not possible. But, okay. Are you more of a morning person or a night person?
I've been waking up at 5 a.m. since I was 12 years old. Morning.
Is that naturally or with anxiety?
Naturally. I just get up, go.
I kind of have heart palpitations and I pop up and everyone's like, "You're such a good morning person." And I'm like, No, I have to start moving or I might have a heart attack. I don't know.
As I got older, that 5 became more like 6:30.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I just go to bed at 10. I wake up at 6 and let's get the day going.
I'm the same way. My brain starts to like shut off. If you had to eat one meal for breakfast for the rest of your life, what would it be?
For breakfast, not just any meal. For breakfast, actually, it's easier than I thought because it's the same thing I order every time I go out. Chicken fried steak, or some people call it country fried steak and eggs. Eggs over easy, real potatoes, and a biscuit with gravy on the side because you can't have enough gravy.
You have to have extra gravy. As a Southern person here, and lovely, when you're in the South, it's a gravy soup. But when you come up here, they're like, you want some gravy? And you're like, you're going to give me like a quarter of gravy for 2 biscuits. Yeah. Like literally, I'm like, I need 3 more containers. Okay. Last question. What's your favorite thing about District 34?
There's 2, and I think they're connected. It is the people and the food, because we have basically someone from every part of the globe here, and they brought not just their culture, but almost all of them brought their food. And somewhere in this district, really, they've opened up a stall, a store, a restaurant. I'm there for it. So really, it's the people.
I need one
food.
more question then.
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of food that you can find in the 34th?
Remember, California 34. I love all of you. But back to Chinatown. Chinese barbecue pork is, because you asked earlier, like, what's the one meal? The one meal is Chinese barbecue pork. I can eat that forever and ever.
I don't think I've ever had that. I've had Korean barbecue.
Charshu. Charshu.
Yeah. So. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you've been here. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm so excited to put it out.
Thank you, Amy. This was great, and I appreciate your support, and I look forward to, and the work you're doing is great, by the way. Everything you're doing get people like me time and people running across the country. It is so necessary, and really thank you, Amy, for doing all this work. I appreciate it. I'm glad
we can work. We're all working towards the same thing, I think. The vast majority of who I'm interviewing, we're all like, let's wrap it up. We need some change.
If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Thank you for following The Foolish Optimist. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, pretty much. We're going to be dropping new episodes every Wednesday, and you can watch the video episodes on YouTube. If you would like to, please give us a review, leave comments. You can also email us at thefoolishoptimistpodcast@gmail.com. If you see any really great candidates that I should be talking to, send them my way. Thank you.